After years of being dormant, the Ultima series is making a comeback via an EA-produced iOS top-down dungeon crawler called Ultima Forever, and the spiritual successor called Shroud of the Avatar, helmed by series creator Richard Garriott. But that begs the question, what makes an Ultima game? What were the core elements that defined the series that was created back in 1979, which in turn influenced dozens upon dozens of computer and video game RPGs that followed? What were the things Richard Garriott and the Origin Systems team created that influenced the game design world? Join us as we take a trip down memory lane and point out what they are. The series really hit its distinct stride in 1985 with Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar. Rather than being tasked with wiping out a sole evil being, you control the Avatar who has to be a paragon of virtue by performing good deeds and completing quests to build your character, under the employment of Lord British. The game gave you 8 of these virtues to spread throughout the country of Britannia: valor, justice, humility, sacrifice, spirituality, compassion, honor, and honesty. Everything you do, from combat to helping people out to even the act of donating money to the poor, affects each of the 8 virtues you need to max out to complete the game. Ultima 4 was a wake-up call courtesy of Garriott, as he proved that RPGs can be something other than grindfests and dungeon crawlers. By setting up this objective, you needed to think outside the box, as every action, combat involved or not, affected how far you were to completing Ultima 4. For example, you couldn't upgrade compassion by slaughtering docile wildlife, and you couldn't gain valor by running away from a fight, even if it seems that they're on the losing end. Such a system had influenced RPGs like the Fallout, Mass Effect, and Baldur's Gate series. In some situations, you were presented with problems where the best solution required some deft, out-of-the-box thinking, and tough decision-making not leading to armed conflict. Players respect the Ultima series for having expansive plots. From the dark themes involving the twisting of the virtue system in Part 5, to the exploration of social tolerance in Part 6, each Ultima game tells a deep story without relying on typical game design tropes like a final boss fight to cap off the game. This paved the way for narratives with moral dilemmas and dark story overtones like The Witcher and the Elder Scrolls series, where certain decisions could have long-term repercussions. Who could forget the inclusion of the Guardian, the antagonist for Ultima 7 and 8, who kept taunting the Avatar with his booming voice and psychological warfare? Who could forget the red-skinned gargoyles, former adversaries of the 6th game due to their miscommunication, which speaks a lot about racism way before a certain first-person game of infinite proportions touch onto that can of worms? The Ultima series introduced a stable of companions and memorable characters inspired by Richard Garriott's close friends and D&D player sheets he crafted before getting into computer gaming design. Lord British the King, Ilo the Crossbowman, Dupre the Loyal Paladin, Shamino the Ranger, Chuckles the Jester. These compatriots, party members or otherwise, were remembered fondly by fans because of how well written and fleshed out they were, and how they keep making constant appearances throughout this series. Ultima invented the concept of open world and sandbox, long before they were popularized by the Grand Theft Auto series. Players had seen the building blocks of an interactive digital life world since Ultima 4, with the vision actually realized in Ultima 7. Before Grand Theft Auto 4 introduced open-world side activities, users in Ultima 7 can bake bread, attend fellowship masses at night, gamble and make merry in a brothel, and ransack houses and banks. You were encouraged to explore the vast land of Britannia. Without a guide handy, you could get lost for months in Ultima 7, solving every sub-quest and searching every nook and cranny for secret items and Easter eggs. The Ultima Underworld spin-offs in 1992 and 1993 put a twist on an old favorite, first-person dungeon crawling. While the Wizardry and Eye of the Beholder series did that before, the Ultima Underworld games pulled it off in 3D and in real time, as well as cramming the interactivity, non-linearity, and simulation aspects from past titles. The Ultima Underworld games were also the starting point of one of Origin Systems staff members who gamers are familiar with, Warren Spector. Yup, the same guy involved in the making of classics like System Shock, Thief, and Deus Ex. Put 2 and 2 together and you can clearly see the influence Ultima Underworld had on the aforementioned titles. Not just on any first-person RPG rendered in 3D, but any first-person action game with some form of open-world design. The concept of mass multiplayer games had been around since the late 80s, like Meridian 51 and multi-user dungeon games aka MUDs. Combining the lore of past Ultima titles, the vast open-ended nature of the series' world, and a little thing called the internet, Ultima Online made the MMO genre popular among gamers in 1997. You created your own virtual avatars and could either go questing, set up shop and sell goods and weapons, or be a jerkwad and player killed anyone a few kilometers outside of a safe zone. Ultima Online may have been a lawless frontier, but darn it if it wasn't fun and revolutionary at the time. Ultima Online may also have been the first game to introduce the concept of a bugged launch. The first few weeks of the game was riddled with exploits, bugs, lag issues, and rampant player killings. Game publications initially slammed the game, but warmed up to it later on due to its progressive online nature and eventual patches. To be fair, it's the first launch of its kind. Games have come a long way up until now to not experience these sort of technical online kerfuffles, barring major exceptions of course. We won't bore you with details on what an MMORPG is, there's a heck ton of those out there in the market. But just remember, the next time you talk to someone and explain who started the MMORPG boom in the late 90s, it sure as heck wasn't World of Warcraft. It's hard not to argue that Richard Garriott was a game changer in the world of video game RPGs. Your favorite RPGs or RPG hybrids, all your Dragon Quests, Final Fantasies, Elder Scrolls and World of Warcrafts, they owe it to the Ultima series and the company behind it, Origin Systems. If you wish to revisit the good old days when RPGs were more than just farming for experience points via combat, you should check out goodoldgames.com as they have the Ultima series on sale there. What were your favorite Ultima titles? What other influences from these classic games in the realm of RPG game design did we miss out on? Tell us on the comments box below.